Hello, I'm Mr. Vitito, and this is lecture number 3 for the imperialism unit in United States History and Government, New York State curriculum. All right, welcome to the lecture. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about some of our presidents that were involved. Well, we've talked about them in our progressive unit, but now that we're in imperialism, we're going to talk about them now a little bit differently because they're more focused in on our foreign policies. Teddy Roosevelt, that man who I told you invited the heavyweight champion of the world to the White House and actually took the knockout punch from this man. Same guy was raised up in the Adirondacks. The same guy, my God, he's done so many things, who was out west riding with the cowboys. The same guy who was cleaning up New York City, the police department, was the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, helped orchestrate some of the ship movements just prior to the Spanish-American War, who quits his office of the Assistant Secretary of the Navy only to go and get those cowboys from out west and to organize the Rough Riders and off to the Spanish-American War. That's right, and a huge battle victory for him up the San Juan Hill. The man was a genius for bringing cameras and everything else to kind of film it. He comes back to America as a war hero. He becomes the governor of the state of New York, and he's going to clean up New York because he's a progressive. He's all kinds of things of cleaning up the messes, politics, business, you name it. A lot of people wanted to get him the heck out of there, right? Don't give a man like this political power, please. They asked him to step up to be McKinley's vice presidential candidate. Not with much interest. They begged him, and they said, for the sake of your party, be a man of honor and take this position so that our political party can win the presidency. The man's got honor, and he did it. He gave up the best job that he had, the governor for the state of New York, to become the vice president, which in most cases in American history is a dead-end job. Nobody ever recovers from being vice president, or very few people do, okay? So that's a great place to take a guy like Teddy Roosevelt and put him. No one believed what was going to happen next, that President McKinley was actually going to be assassinated. And from all accounts, from what I can tell about President McKinley, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the man that would have made somebody want to kill this guy. There's just wackadoos out there who definitely want to use their guns. And here's a guy that decided to do that at the World's Fair out in Buffalo. I believe it was in Buffalo. All right, so they didn't even know where Teddy Roosevelt was. He was deep in the Adirondacks hunting, right? They had to actually pull him out of the Adirondacks. I bet there was probably a day or two we didn't have a president of the United States. So, mom's the word. The president is still hanging on. That's kind of the word until they could find Teddy Roosevelt, because the president was dead. Hey, you know what? Teddy Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, and Woodrow Wilson were our 3 progressive presidents, and they're going to be the 3 presidents we look at in this new unit of imperialism, right? For Teddy Roosevelt, what you really want to know is that whole hardened exterior that he had. Hey, this man used it in foreign policy as well, and he projected American power. Let's take a look at the notes. For this particular one, we've got the big stick policy. Right? And Teddy Roosevelt believed that anybody who carried a big stick didn't have to say too much, because you know what? You're going to deal with the man or you're going to deal with the stick, one way or the other. So really what the big stick was something known as the Roosevelt corollary. And watch me move across this board. The Roosevelt corollary is a corollary to this, the Monroe Doctrine. All right? A corollary is an addition, if you will. And the Roosevelt take on the Monroe Doctrine was that we needed to have a big and powerful Navy to protect our trade at sea, that we needed to actually show the world that we had the power and we were willing to use the power. So what he did was he took a brand new steel-hulled fleet with some of the most modern, sophisticated weaponry. He painted that fleet white and sent it around the world, known as the Great White Fleet. This Great White Fleet was supposed to be going in peace everywhere it went, which is the reason why it was painted white, kind of like a truce, a flag that's a flag of peace or whatever. I guess a truce flag is white. Okay, you don't shoot the guy who's carrying a white flag. So the ships were painted white, and they sailed around the world, down around South America, across the Pacific, over to China, down and around Asia and South Asia and India and Africa and up to Europe and all the way back. Of course, when it came to New York, huge party when the Great White Fleet returned. And of course, it's painted battle gray, like they're always painted at that point, and it was put on active duty, this whole entire fleet. The world got to meet the ocean-going Navy of the United States. And they had to understand that the United States is willing to use this power and to project it. And Teddy Roosevelt was going to use this, certainly in the Western Hemisphere, to protect our interests. So what we're going to see in note number 2 here under the Great White Fleet is that the United States forces were used in Latin America several times to quell riots. One specifically was in Cuba. All right, and I do want to mention that when the Great White Fleet went sailing around, there was actually one country where there was a revolution because one side knew that the Great White Fleet was coming and told the other side, my Navy's coming. And when everyone saw the Great White Fleet, they believed that this White Fleet actually belonged to this guy, and the revolution was won. It was over in a day, I guess. I might be exaggerating that just slightly, but it's close. It's a story that I recall hearing about when I was back in college. But anyways, the United States is really interested in one thing particular, and that is the little isthmus that's at the Panamanian, I want to say it's like a neck of Central America, a place that's very, very thin. So let's take a look at the world here on the map, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. We're talking about this spot right here, okay? The Panama Canal is going to be built right there, and what it's going to do is it's going to save us from sending our fleet all the way down and around every time we want to go from the west coast to the east. Now we'll just come down to here, whoop, slide through and over, and what a trip we have saved, right? So that's the idea behind the Panama Canal, and of course the United States is using its power. There's a revolution going on in Colombia, and the little piece of Colombia known as Panama managed to break off with a little bit of help of the United States Navy. Okay? So there's Teddy Roosevelt. He's a man who's not afraid to use his power. His presidency is going to come to an end, but before it does, what he finds is that European nations are having problems with Latin American countries. They're actually Latin American countries are willing to take loans and not pay them back. How stupid. I got to tell you that taking people's money and not giving it back is a great way to get hurt. This is probably one of those ways that's recognized internationally as being a legitimate reason to go to war against somebody. So why would you stiff Britain with the world's greatest navy? Why would you stiff France or Germany or any of these countries? But Latin American nations did. And they were willing to come back over and collect their money. And our fear, if you're remembering the Monroe Doctrine over here, our fear was that European countries wouldn't just simply stop at collecting their money. They would actually conquer the nation and make a new colony. We needed to stop that from happening. All right, so what Teddy Roosevelt did was he used U.S. forces to go in and collect those debts that were owed by Latin American countries. That's Latin American countries. Okay, and he would pay Europe back just to prevent war and the possible colonization of these places. I'd say that seems like a pretty smart thing, but do you think we're making friends in Latin America when we do that? No, we're not. We're not making friends at all. And this is really kind of the beginning of the end for our having good relations in Latin America. We've had very bad relations with Latin American countries over the years, and El Norte is, as we're known, the North, right? Taking land from Mexico in the 1800s, doing this kind of stuff. Nah, we're not making ourselves best friends. But again, I don't think we were interested by this point in making ourselves best friends. Now, here comes the part about William Howard Taft and what's known as dollar diplomacy. Okay? If we're willing to go into foreign countries like Latin America to collect the debts for other countries, why aren't we going in and collecting debts for ourselves? In fact, if you think about it, if we made loans, even risky loans, if they default on those loans, we'll go down and collect the money. The loans are guaranteed. We could make a lot of money doing that. Let's do it. That's what American foreign policy became, and it became known as dollar diplomacy. So what I have written here on the board for your notes is that, starting right here, Taft continues the use of American intervention, but this time it's to guarantee profits for American businesses. And the second note says that there were 33 interventions. Of course, you can imagine that angers Latin America. So that concludes today our third lecture for the Imperialism Unit. I hope you got a lot out of it. You should take notes on this lecture. Be sure that you've not only shown me the notes, but that you can also talk to me about what this lecture is about, and if you want to, you can always rewatch this, God help you. But you can rewatch this thing if it'll help you. All right? Thank you for tuning into the lecture, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.